Hi, everyone. I have had a request to talk about fertility, pregnancy, weaning, first food introductions for children, that whole area of issues. So, I am going to split this up into two videos. One is going to be more about the fertility, like getting pregnant, supporting pregnancy experience. And then the second one is going to be more about weaning and getting kids set up with a really optimal diet early on. And if there are more details or specific things that you want me to get at that I don't, please make sure to comment and let me know. But I'm just going to give a basic overview. So, I think in our culture we have kind of lost the art of optimizing our fertility and preparing for pregnancy, right? Because in a lot of traditional cultures, like there is a whole preparation period. Like once you get married or you reach childbearing age, like you go through all these processes. Some are very, ritualistic and ceremonial that have more cultural meaning, but a lot of them have um, consequences for your overall health, which add to your fertility. So, there's a lot of amazing traditional knowledge on how to optimize fertility. And a lot of that has been lost, and I don't think, treat it with the same kind of reverence. I mean, people certainly, honor pregnancy in our own way in our culture, but it's different right now than it used to be in the past. Um, so, traditionally, people prepared for pregnancy by eating a very high nutrient diet. And this is true for the people who are going to be pregnant, but also anyone else involved in the pregnancy, so mother and father included, right? Because the father's health is a big part of the health of the child too. Obviously, a lot of the primary health comes from the mother, but the father also contributes. So this applies for everyone involved, although I'm going to talk a little bit more about the person getting pregnant in this video. Um, so, really, when we want to optimize fertility, we want to optimize progesterone production, right? This is our main fertility hormone, and unfortunately, in our modern society, we have a lot of issues with hormone imbalances. We have things like PCOS, which is more like testosterone dominant for people who should not have such high levels of testosterone, and we have a lot of estrogen dominance. That's probably the most common thing that I see in my practice is a lot of estrogen dominance. This is people with high amounts of estrogen in their body and low amounts of progesterone, and this is not a fertile state in the body. And I have other videos about hormones, but like when you have too much estrogen in your body, it kind of acts like a toxin. Like it feels awful. You feel really gross in your body when you have too much estrogen, and it's very, very common nowadays. So, optimizing progesterone means optimizing fertility. The primary way to do that is to get you out of a state of insulin resistance. This is also very important if something more like PCOS is your issue, or more testosterone dominance is your issue. But basically, your hormones are going to produce more correctly if you are in a state of insulin sensitivity, right? So that your insulin is very responsive to carbohydrates you're eating. You are not getting big blood sugar spikes or big blood sugar crashes, but your blood sugar is very steady, that you switch in and out of ketosis very easily, that you have a healthy metabolism, basically. This is like the basic first step for optimizing your progesterone. So, if you feel like you currently are in a state where your blood sugar is kind of all over the place, you tend to be moody or irritable, or you get hangry at all, like that should not be a thing that anyone has if their blood sugar is balanced. Doesn't mean you don't get hungry and want to eat, but you shouldn't have that hangry, like I'm gonna die if I don't eat experience. So that if you have any of those kinds of symptoms, you have that mid-afternoon slump, you feel like you need caffeine to get going in the morning, you tend to be nauseated first thing in the morning, any of those kinds of things, or, you know, um, you feel like you need to eat something sweet or sugary after a meal, all that kind of stuff is signs that you need to work on balancing your blood sugar, which I usually help people get to a more insulin sensitive state by putting them on a low carbohydrate diet for a period of time, depending on their symptoms. Depends how intense you need to go with that, whether you need to do a very strict ketogenic diet or just cut down on the carbohydrates for a while until your insulin gets more sensitive. And then there are key nutrients that help with progesterone production as well. A big one is saturated fat, and it's really unfortunate that there has been such a bias towards low-fat diets, especially promoted towards women, because it actually kills our fertility. Low-fat diets kill fertility. We need saturated fat in the diet, especially to create progesterone. Progesterone is a steroid hormone. It is based on saturated fat that we get in our diet. Our liver will produce a baseline amount of cholesterol for us, but we really need saturated fat from the diet to have healthy hormones. And this comes with the fat-soluble vitamins A, D, and K, so cod liver oil is a really wonderful thing to supplement if you are working on your fertility. There are also some key B vitamins, especially B6, which helps from the conversion from the fats that you're eating into the progesterone hormones. So B6 is a really important one. You get this from mostly animal foods. Chicken and turkey are good sources, as well as folate, B9, and B12. This also helps with that conversion in the liver. Now, a lot of people are deficient in folate. This is actually a fairly hard one to get enough of in your diet. It comes in a wide variety of animal and plant foods. It's hard to really rely on just one food for your source of folate because there's like a little bit in a lot of different foods. So just having a nice diverse diet of, meats, vegetables, some fruits, that should help you fulfill your folate requirements, but some people do have to supplement. And this is why supplementing with folic acid is so popular, for the kind of prenatal state. But folic acid actually it does not convert well into the bioavailable form of folate in the body. And for some people, it actually creates a toxic state in the body. And so we actually really want to avoid supplements with folic acid in it. We always want to look at methylfolate. This is the more bioavailable form of folate in supplements. So that's what you want to supplement. The other really good way to get enough B9 and B12 in your diet is to eat organ meats. So there is a reason that liver is considered a fertility food in traditional diets. It's because it is super high in vitamins like B9 and B12 in a way that like other foods just aren't, especially the B9, which is the folate. B12 you can get a lot of from things like red meat, beef and lamb, but folate is very high in foods like kidney and liver, and so it's really, really great to get access to eat those foods. You can get the freeze-dried supplements like Ancestral Supplement sells high-quality ones, so that's better than nothing if you want to take those capsules, but if you can get the real thing and cook them up, they're great in like stews or to mix them up in ground meat. You hardly even taste them when you mix them up that way. Excellent as a way to boost your fertility. Then there are minerals. Zinc, especially. Zinc is one of those, like with B6, that really helps with the conversion from the saturated fat that you're eating into progesterone, the hormone. So it helps with that conversion process. It's a cofactor for that. So zinc and B6 are important for that reason. Zinc, the best source is, in fact, oysters. It's also high in some other animal foods like lamb and beef, and also the organ meats. But some seafood is actually really high in zinc, especially oysters, and so that's a great thing to include in your diet as well. Oysters are also considered a fertility food for this reason that they are so high in zinc. So that's a really other good one to do. And then iodine. it turns out that we actually really need iodine for our fertility. And in fact, farmers know this because a lot of ranchers, like of cows or sheep, if they are having an animal that is having trouble getting pregnant, they will supplement them with iodine. And it's amazing that somehow like this knowledge doesn't translate into human medicine, because iodine is actually super important for our fertility. And with the amount of fluoride and chlorine in our water and bromide that off gases from our clothing and our mattresses and our furniture, most of us are pretty deficient in iodine. Even if it's not to a acute level where we're getting a goiter or anything like that, a lot of us have like these subclinical iodine deficiencies that still do affect our thyroid and affect our hormone production and affect our metabolism. So for some people, it will be enough just to supplement with kelp capsules. That's a great way to go to get your iodine levels up. For some people, that's going to be enough. Some people will actually have to supplement with Lugol's liquid iodine. If you're going to do that, you really need to do your research. I've talked about this a little bit before in videos, but supplementing iodine you have to be very thoughtful and careful about because you can overdose yourself on it. And then you blow your thyroid out, and that's no good. So I teach you how to properly supplement iodine in my book, Rebuild Yourself. You really just have to do it in a very specific way, or, go do your own research about it, but that also is an option. So to summarize, to boost your fertility, nutrition wise, you need to get your blood sugar balanced. Usually, this means a low carb diet or a ketogenic diet. And you have to prioritize key nutrients such as saturated fat, iodine, B9 and B12, zinc and B6. And these are found best in foods such as liver and kidneys, egg yolks, butter and ghee, cod liver oil, oysters, lamb and beef, and kelp. So, those are the things you really want to prioritize in your diet. Lifestyle wise, there are some herbs that help help you detox excess estrogen. If estrogen dominance is a part of your picture, doing all this dietary stuff will help rebalance your hormone production. But things like raspberry leaf and Vitex or chasteberry are really, really great. And you really do have to do it often at a higher dose than like it would say on the bottle. Often I'm having people do like 6 cups of raspberry leaf tea a day, or like 6 full dropperfuls of the Vitex chasteberry tincture every day. So you do want to definitely do higher doses of those herbs to get more of a therapeutic effect. You can also do things like chicory root, which helps stimulate the liver and helps you detox estrogen a little better. You can do something like DIM, which is DIM, which is an extract from broccoli, actually. So you could also just eat a ton of broccoli every day. You could eat like 6 cups of broccoli every day, or you could supplement with DIM, or you could use something like fenugreek, which also as a spice, and then supplement as a capsule or drink as a tea. These kinds of things are really stimulating for the liver, and they help detox estrogen more effectively. So all of that is going to be helpful herbal supplements, but always work on the diet first and then add those as bonuses. You really want to make sure that you rid yourself of any exposure to hormone disrupting substances. So there have been some really shocking studies coming out showing how all the microplastics that we're exposed to, all the fragrances, all the synthetic fabrics, these are all actually harming our fertility. For both men and women, for people of all genders, the exposure to these substances, they are endocrine disrupting substances, meaning that they can put these in a tank with zebrafish and see like they're not fertile, within a few weeks. So, this is very well established that most of these chemicals and synthetic materials that we're exposed to every day are absolutely contributing to the epidemic of infertility that is happening. So, again, I've said this before, stress is also bad for your fertility, right? So you don't want to freak out about this stuff, but as much as you can, ditch the synthetic clothing, start wearing cotton, linen, silk, wool, these kinds of fabrics. As much as you can detox your hygiene items, like stop taking bubble baths with fragrances, even if you're trying to wind down, like it's better just to use like a couple drops of a pure essential oil in a diffuser if you want that nice scent in your house. And get rid of all the artificial fragrances, or even a lot of the natural fragrances, which sometimes are code for things that we still don't want to be exposed to. Really work on not using plastic or Teflon in your cooking or food storage. Just all these little things will help your hormones produce more properly and won't disrupt that whole hormone production system. So work on that, especially guys, your underwear. There was this incredible study showing that guys wearing synthetic fabric underwear were actually more prone to low sperm production, and switching to cotton underwear actually boosted sperm production within like a few weeks. It was a really wild study. So check out all that kind of stuff to start picking away at it. And then the last thing would be more of the mindset piece. So, again, in traditional cultures, like pregnancy is a really sacred thing. So, if you are going to be working on getting pregnant, you are going to be pampered. You're going to be like the most pampered person in the tribe or in the community or in the village. Like, you are not going to have to work a lot. You're going to be getting all sorts of food brought to you. You can still be active. Like, people can like lift weights while they're pregnant. They can walk, they can hike, they can do all sorts of things. You don't have to be like on bed rest by any means unless you have a complication going on. But you shouldn't be stressed, right? You should be really pampered, be having a lot of things taken care of for you. And so trying to make sure that you really have a support system set up, whether it's, obviously a partner would be really great, but often it takes more than that. It takes a community of people. So having friends, having extended family, whatever that looks like for you, but that can really, at a time in your life when you're not ideally working a really stressful job, when you're able to maybe take a little more time off. Obviously, these are privileges not everyone has access to, but when you are in a state of stress, your body says, oops, not a good time to get pregnant, and so you're going to struggle with your fertility more. So taking a lot of time to meditate and to feel pampered and do a lot of self-care, this is going to be really essential for promoting your fertility. So all of these things you can implement, and you're going to see improvements in your hormone status and your fertility within a year, very, very likely. I would say that for people who have more significant health issues, and honestly probably most people at this point, so I'm going to get on my soapbox for a minute here, like all of that stuff I just said is great, and that will get you into a state where you're more likely to be fertile. But I really think at this point in human history, we actually have a responsibility to give our next generation a better chance at a fulfilling life. Because we're at a state right now where it is the norm to have high levels of toxicity in the body, a very imbalanced microbiome. A lot of the people I'm talking to these days, even some people over 40, but certainly people younger than 40 and especially younger than 30, they've been sick since they were born. Right? So many of my clients come to me with this story now, and I actually see it in myself too, although I see people who had even more severe things than I did from the time they were born. And so I think that we have a responsibility to really do a full reset for our kids, because the intergenerational decline in our health is really reaching a climax in a way that is really scary to me. Like, I am actually really nervous for even what the next generation is going to come into this planet dealing with. People are going to have to heal starting from the times they are kids. And if you want to prevent that as much as possible from having to happen, of like your kid just very likely developing some kind of psychiatric disorder or neurological disorder or autoimmune disease in their life, like we actually have to actively work now to prevent that from happening to the next generation. And so I actually think if everyone could spend 2 years really seriously detoxing and resetting their microbiome before they get pregnant, we would just revolutionize the health of our next generation, and we would change the world doing that. Now, of course, this isn't shaming anyone who is already pregnant and wasn't able to do that, or is, or has kids and wasn't able to do that, like, we always do the best we can in the situation we can. So this is not a finger wagging, but it's just my perspective that ideally, in the right circumstances, if you have the ability, you should really take this seriously, because we are kind of in a crisis state when it comes to the health of our society. And we really need our microbiome reset as a greater community, unfortunately. And so, if you have those 2 years to really buckle down and do that work, it will only benefit you and your children. It's not a good idea to do a lot of detoxing or microbiome work once you're already pregnant, because the child unfortunately can be affected by the detox process in a negative way. So it really wants to be before, or then do it with the child after they're born if you didn't get that opportunity. So, yeah, I pretty much took up this whole video talking about fertility and getting pregnant. So I will get to the rest in my next video. Let me know what you think, and hope you have a wonderful week.